It's been a while, but we're back with some SPT and chill. Now, for those that don't know, SPTs are a series of exercises which archers do for conditioning, and I like running this as either something you can listen to, like a unscripted podcast, or you can do SPTs while watching this. These are pretty much natural, unscripted, off-top-of-head videos covering topics which I wouldn't otherwise make a prepared video on while I'm doing training, and hopefully while you're enjoying or training yourself. Firstly, the Olympic edition, this came in the other day, the official Australian jersey from the Olympic store. I've bought a few of these in the past couple of years, which have been okay, but this one, can I say, is drip, and that's not very respectful for the Indigenous art, but it does look really good. Of course, the Mongolian uniforms at the Olympic Games seem to be the game winner. But in terms of collectibles, this looks pretty nice. I'll probably wear a lot more in my Olympic archery videos, just to represent Australia a bit more. So that's enjoyable. Now, I am competing in an event this weekend, not Paris, unfortunately, but in Sydney. So up in Sydney for the Maidan Cup, which is a traditional archery tournament. My first traditional tournament, which will be really exciting, and probably the official switch from my Olympic recurve to Asiatic thumb draw, which is going to be pretty exciting. Not sure how I do. The level of competition seems pretty high, and it's pretty inconsistent. So it is the best archer on the day, but it's mostly there for the experience and for fun. So I'm doing SPTs to keep conditioning. I'm shooting a 45-pound horse bow or Asiatic bow at the event, and I normally shoot like a 40-pound recurve in tournaments. So I'm using my Black Hunter, which is a 50-pound model. At my normal draw length, it's about 46 pounds, but I'm overdrawing this because I overdraw with thumb draw. So it's effectively about 50 pounds, which is above my actual weight, so it's nice conditioning. Those who are unfamiliar with SPTs, there are 4 exercises. I'm going to focus on 2 today, and primarily 1. So the ones that I'll do a lot in these videos are the pumps, which train power. Pumps involve pulling back to full draw and letting down. So for this purpose, it's going to be a full draw. So 1, down, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and then rest for 30 seconds, and then do another set. And the other one is the long holds, where you hold for 30 seconds or however long you can hold for. Something better than nothing. So we'll do the long holds. So I'll do the long draw for the thumb draw styles. So that'll be it there, and just hold for whatever, 34 seconds. So normally you would anchor where you normally anchor. I would do it here normally, but we'll do it for the long draw. So while I'm doing that, it can be a little tiring, but I'll be talking about things off the top of my mind. And the topic we'll talk about is the Olympic Games, and kind of my experience, not with the Olympics obviously, but with the competitive sports side, which is featured in the Olympic Games. So let's pump, and I'll talk while I'm pumping. I'll probably do more talking with the stamina holds, but we'll do more with we'll do some talking as we're doing this. So what is my relationship with Olympic style archery? Now, obviously, those who follow me long enough, I started with Olympic style. Everyone starts with the trad style first, the bare bow, because that's the introduction, come and try sessions. And I'll quickly shoehorn into Olympic recurve because I go to a modern target club. That was the only club in my area, still is the only club in my area. Became president and head coach. But that's the first style of archery that I did. Now, as a individual, I hated sports. Like as a kid, I never liked sports. Didn't like watching it, didn't like playing it, wasn't that kind of person. So archery was very much my kind of sport. Try to keep this up. So like with many people who get into archery, the joy comes from the individuality, the pursuit of perfection. It's only you. There's nobody else who really affects your goals directly. It doesn't matter what someone else does in the next target. It is you. You own the shot. You own your mistakes. And I really enjoyed that. So because target or Olympic archery was the only archery available, compound wasn't even a question. Like, one, not many people did it at my club at the time. It wasn't really my thing to begin with. So I was pushed into recurve, and I enjoyed it. For what it was worth, it was a good balance between the old traditional style of archery where you will pull your fingers, no mechanical aids. But it was also a very competitive sport where the use of the accessory stabilizer sights would allow me to compete at a high level on footing with other people. So there's no excuse, I should say. No excuse for not shooting well because the equipment shoots better than you. And that's one of the common complaints people have with archery. It's like, it's so easy, that everything does it for you. Completely false. For recurve at least, the bow does nothing for you. Compound does a lot for you, but recurve doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, yes, the tools like the sight allow you to have more precise alignment. The stabilizers allow you to hold for more balance, but you have to work for it. There are more steps involved in using an Olympic style bow with a higher level of expectation. So it's easier to score well, but it's harder to use. It's all very relative. Depends on your frame of reference, half full, half empty, that sort of thing. So what is my pathway? So I took a long time to get to competition. One, because I guess at the time, I've been doing archery for like 15 years now, which is quite a lot. Not as many as other people on the internet, but for me, 15 years is actually not a short amount of time. So I got into it quite late in my life. And still a long hold. And it took me like a year, maybe 2 years before my first event. Like, we did club level, no long hold. So I did club level. It's much easier to do a talk when doing long holds. At club level, we didn't do many shoots, right? Because we only had like maybe 5, 10 people involved, and very few people actually shot scoring. And it took me a long time to get into some kind of competition. One is confidence, two is support. Let's rest. Don't want to tell you anything there. And what I didn't have that support where that encouragement would get me into competition. And many clubs, if you have a small club, you know what I'm talking about. There are too few people who want to push themselves to shoot scoring. It's mostly fun, casual, social thing or self-improvement, relaxation thing. Whereas bigger clubs tend to have more of a critical mass. Talking about like 50 or 100 people involved to come every day or every week. And they want to score, train. And it's a culture around getting better. Like shooting personal best, shooting records, claiming those badges which represent your progression. We never had that. I mean, we had that, but not when I was around. And even today, years later, like 10, 15 years later, we don't really have a system where we can claim progression, which hurts a lot for people who need progression as a personal milestone to stay invested in the sport. I mean, why turn up for weeks and months and years if there's no sign of progress? You're not going to score, you're not going to get a shiny badge or a new belt or a new shirt or a shiny medal. What will motivate you? That's a really hard call for most people, and a lot of people drop out after a few months because there's no progress. There's nothing to aim for, almost literally in some cases. So it took me years to attempt my first tournament. It was a state short range, I believe. And my goal was, at the time, like, I thought it was a big deal. Like with many people today, they think that tournaments and championships are really scary. They're big words. You got to be good. You got to qualify. The reality is, most people doing it for the social experience, for the experience of doing archery. Man, I can't hold and talk at the same time. It's okay. So at the time, I thought, I've got to be at least decent. Don't want to embarrass myself. I've got to qualify. Found out later that all it takes is like $50 or something to enter. That's basically it. There's no qualification. It's open entry. It's not professional at all. I thought the sport was professional. It's not. Like 95% of people in my sport, at least in Australia, do it for fun. I mean, 100% do it for fun. There's no professionalism involved in archery, at least. So I realized that was a pretty low barrier. There's no bar for entry. So I got into state level, did finish kind of bottom third, never really trained for it. And the same thing for like world level, because again, you think World Championship, World Cup, represent your country. There are lots of low-key international events. I'd say more so in Europe because there's a lot more of an archery scene and more countries competing in similar events. Australia kind of isolated, kind of by ourselves here, but definitely lots of interstate tournaments. And the opportunity came in 2019 when the World Indoor Series for the first time came to Sydney, because normally there's World Indoors around the world. Macau was that year, Nîmes in France is another one, the more well-known one. Of course, Vegas is the biggest one, the final one. So Sydney hosted the 250, I think, which is the lowest level, lowest point scoring event. But that was mostly for like regional archers to compete. So New Zealand had a lot, Australia had a big contingent, and a few from Asia, like Malaysia, I think Indonesia, maybe China had a lot of compound shooters. But that was like my first real event was in Sydney. And again, I've never done indoor before. It was mostly for the fun, the experience, to travel, meet people. Great experience. And that was the same year I met Coach Casey Glee. He was in Sydney. I think he's in Melbourne now, apparently. But he was in Sydney, ran his workshop, he invited me, and that was a great experience. And then COVID. I mean, that might have been the one time where I would have wanted to take archery more seriously. And then COVID hit, right? I can't hold and talking. Now these are very short holds. These are not 20-second holds. That's fine. So COVID hits, and that kind of ends my enthusiasm. With no events happening, I lost that drive and motivation. Okay, and of course, for many of us, we're in a pretty bad state, mentally and physically. And it's taken years to rebound for me, both physically and mentally, to rebound from those years. Not very happy years there. So that's when I transitioned more to two things. One, did a lot more coaching, and two, a lot more traditional, especially Asiatic. For me, it was like simple bow for simpler times. No need to shoot a big recurve in the backyard for 3 meters. And that's where my biggest split comes in. For people who are already invested in the sport, but, financially, physically, emotionally, you'd find ways to keep on doing it and find reasons to keep on doing it. I wasn't that invested. And that's something I had to really be honest with myself. I was never that invested into archery as a sport or as a passion, which is kind of ironic given that my entire channel that I've done for the last 10 plus years has been built around archery. But it's not my primary passion. For me, it's teaching. I'm a high school teacher. I can mention this quite a few times, but those don't realize. Let's do pumps. I'm a high school teacher. So most of my time that I spend that's not teaching is spent doing things related to teaching, running school debating teams, public speaking competitions, and of course the endless amount of marking, corrections, and preparation that come with teaching in your own time. And that's always been my conflict. Whenever there's a schedule clash, teaching comes first. And for some weeks, some months, that might be literally every spare time I have. No YouTube, no archery, all towards teaching. School holidays, we've got more regular breaks in Australia. But again, it's only once every few months it happens, and it might be winter now, so there's very few opportunities for outdoor shooting. It gets dark really early. I've got no indoor range, making excuses. I can always travel. But again, if there's no incentive, why go? So ultimately, I'm going in circles, I'm training here, right? Ultimately, the problem is that I don't have the people around me to support me. I don't have the opportunity that other people have. One of the great fun things with archery or with Olympic sports is to find out backstories. People who dedicated their lives and passions to a sport, and with the support of other people, overcome hardships. It's a personal challenge. And I kind of envy those people in the sense that, like if they win gold medals, they'll thank their family and friends and maybe sponsors and the government for funding them. And I have none of that. Like, I don't have family which support me in my archery journey. Like, I don't have anyone who cares. My friends, what few I have, I guess, don't really care about archery. The people I met through archery, of course, care. But the people outside of that, don't. It's such a niche pursuit that it doesn't have that appeal. People don't really understand what it's like to kind of have that passion. Again, with parents or family, no one cares. It's not like I'm earning money from it. It's not like it gains any respect in my cultural traditions and kind of the whole stereotypes. And because of that, like, it's a pursuit which is like almost like a waste of time. Those who have this background probably should know what I'm talking about, right? Where academics are far more important, jobs far more important, money far more important, family maybe, but sports, a bit of a waste of time. So without that encouragement from people close to me, without that support network from, say, a club, and I don't blame my club for this or my coach, just there weren't enough people. We're a very casual club. It's basically a practice field. And people don't really turn up for events. There's no events which we run. And because people close to me don't have that motivation to do archery seriously, I don't have that push to do archery seriously. And part of my long-term goal is, of course, to support the sport, both local and international level, to the point where more people want to do it. But that comes at the expense of me doing it. Because I guess for me, this is the coach's syndrome, right? So as a coach, you're going to spend most of your time coaching people. That makes sense, right? But that means that you sacrifice the time you have to do your own archery. If I was motivated, I'd dedicate more of my own time. I'll make time to do archery. But that's a luxury which I don't have. So this is the roundabout SPT way of talking about why don't I pursue the Olympic pathway, why don't I do Olympic archery, or even train Olympic archery anymore. It's like, well, what's the point? I would like to, and there's no saying I won't return to it. But this is a thing that people will struggle with. I know myself and many people have the same issues where, like, if there's no support, positive or even negative, like if people criticize me and say, oh, you suck at this, I might be motivated to do it more. But just the ambivalence, the passiveness, just the indifference, that's what got me in my developmental pathway as a competitive archer. People didn't care. Not people close to me, not people around me. And even when I go to meet other people in other clubs, I mean, at the time before I was, world famous or something, had my channel, like, it was kind of like a weird community. Like, it's kind of very cliquey, very niche. So if you're already in the sport for a long period of time, everyone knew you. I mean, people now know me because of what I do. But it's kind of still weird going to other clubs and, like, not everyone goes on the internet. Most people go on, get into archery, don't learn online first. They learn through, like, the clubs and local programs. Because you kind of forget that people get exposed to archery in different ways. And yeah, I guess a lot of people now learning online will see me first, but going to other clubs is kind of like, if you know people there, it's easy to get motivation because you get a buddy or a partner or a rival, have that kind of friendly storyline and arc and competition. But unless you have people who are going to encourage you to go to events together, it's kind of not fun. That's the bottom line of a lot of these events, is that if you're not having fun, then kind of why do it? That's why I'm going to Maidan this weekend, because one, I want to meet people again, connect to people through archery, but also I've got more people hyping it up. Like my other club, Ascension, now in Dandenong, like those guys are training hard. Maidan has grown huge in the last few years. They're very serious about it. So just meeting people again and getting into the hype, like you want to compete because it looks fun. And that's kind of giving me the incentive to like train, do a regular weekly training, do SPTs when I don't have to condition for a sport which I now want to do. And that's kind of like the most fundamental thing. I think I'm worn out now, just talking too much. But the fundamental thing of any kind of archery is that culture. Whether it's you, yourself, or your club, or your local community, or your state organization, like it's the people who make it. And if the people in the sport don't really care about making it fun for people again, then you'll get this effect where there simply aren't enough people involved. So that's kind of my little rant, and also a bit of a message for you too, is you've got to make archery fun. You've got to find ways to get yourself involved and find other people who want to be involved. And without that, then we don't have those great Olympic stories and backstories which inspire people. I'm not sure if my story inspires people. I'm just a high school teacher. I shoot for fun every now and then. I teach archery, but hopefully if you engage in the Olympic Games, you'll find something to connect to, something inspired by. It isn't always meant to be entertaining. I'm sure there'll be heartbreaks and success stories, but really, all these people are people. And, you know, if you're going to support someone in their journey, then that can be very rewarding. But you need people in your life to do that. And that can be hard if you don't have that sort of person. So anyway, that's my SPT and chill rant. I didn't do too much, did I, right? Doesn't matter, doing some. Again, it's kind of hard to talk and SP at the same time, but that's part of the experience, and hopefully this gets you thinking a bit about what your archery goals are, and maybe encourage you to do a bit more SPTs. Yeah, I normally do a lot more when I'm by myself, but I guess when I'm talking to you guys, that seems to be a bit of a distraction. But hey, that's part of the experience too. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting and thoughtful, and hope it's motivates you to pull out your bow or stretching bands and do some training. This sort of thing helps. You know, I've been helping people prepare for the Maidan Cup, and just some basic conditioning every night makes a huge difference for your physical, for your mental well-being, and of course in competition you'll feel the difference. Anyone who does SPT will know this. It's a one training routine which you should be doing, if not daily, then every day you're not shooting. You don't passively become better at archery. You've got to work for it. That includes technique, that includes conditioning, that includes mental. And hopefully, if you watch all my videos, you improve all of them. But whatever your pathway is, hope you find that connection, that engagement, and that purpose. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully we'll do some more SPT and chill next time.